Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Janna Vallabha Jayo Giri Varadhari Jayo Giri Varadhari Shodanandana Vrajajana Ranjanam Shodanandana Vrajajana Ranjanam Munatira Vannachaharim Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Radha Madhavastasa Krishna Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 8, prayers of Queen Kunti, shloka 27. Om namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo kiñcana-vittāya. nivṛtta-guṇa-vṛttaye. ātmā-ārāmāya śāntāya. kaivalya-pataye namaḥ. Namo kiñcana-vittāya. nivṛtta-guṇa-vṛttaye. ātmā-ārāmāya śāntāya. kaivalya-pataye namaḥ.
Light. Off.
kiñcana-vittāya. nivṛttaye. ātmā-ārāmāya śāntāya. kaivalya-pataye namaḥ. Mataji. Word for word, nama, all obeisances unto you. Akiñcana-vittāya, unto the property of the materially impoverished. Nivṛtta, completely transcendental to the actions of the material modes. Guna, material modes. Vṛttaye, affection. Ātma-ārāmāya, one who is self-satisfied. Śāntāya, the most gentle. Kaivalya-pataye, unto the master of the monists. Namaḥ, bowing down. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. My obeisances are unto you, for the property of the materially impoverished. Have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and are master of the monists. Purport. A living being is finished as soon as there is nothing to possess. Therefore, a living being cannot be, in the real sense of the term, a renouncer. A living being renounces something for gaining something more valuable. A student sacrifices his childish proclivities to gain better education. A servant gives up his job for a better job. Similarly, a devotee renounces the material world not for nothing, but for something tangible in spiritual value. Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami and others gave up their worldly pomp and prosperity for the sake of the service of the Lord. They were big men in the worldly sense. The Goswamis were ministers in the government service of Bengal. And Srila Raghuram Das Goswami was the son of a big zamindar of his time. But they left everything to gain something superior to what they previously possessed. The devotees are generally without material prosperity, but they have a very secret treasure house in the lotus feet of the Lord. There is a nice story about Srila Sanatana Goswami. He had a touchstone with him, and this stone was left in a pile of refuse. A needy man took it, but later on wondered why the valuable stone was kept in such a neglected place. He therefore asked him for the most valuable thing, and then he was given the holy name of the Lord. Akinchana means one who has nothing to give materially. A factual devotee or Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has already left all material assets. He can, however, deliver the supreme asset, namely the personality of Godhead, because he is the only property of a factual devotee. The touchstone of Sanatana Goswami, which was thrown in the rubbish, was not the property of the Goswami. Otherwise, it would not have been kept in such a place. This specific example is given for the neophyte devotees just to convince them that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. Unless one is able to see everything as a spiritual in relation with the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. A spiritual master like Srila Sanatana Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set this example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision. Advancement of material vision or material civilization is a great stumbling block for spiritual advancement. Such material advancement entangles the living being in the bondage of a material body, followed by all sorts of material miseries. Such material advancement is called anartha, or things not wanted. Actually, this is so. In the present context of material advancement, one uses lipstick at the cost of 50 cents, and there are so many unwanted things, which are all products of the material conception of life. By diverting attention to so many unwanted things, human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization, the prime necessity of human life. The attempt to reach the moon is another example of spoiling energy, because even if the moon is reached, the problems of life will not be solved. The devotees of the Lord are called Akinchanas because they have practically no material assets. Such material assets are all products of the three modes of material nature. They foil spiritual energy, and thus the less we possess such products of material nature, the more we have a good chance for spiritual progress. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no direct connection with the material activities. All his acts and deeds, which are exhibited even in this material world, are spiritual and without affection for the modes of material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord says that all his acts, even his appearance and disappearance in and out of the material world, are transcendental, and one who knows this perfectly shall not take his birth again in this material world, but will go back to Godhead. The material disease is due to hankering after the lording it over material nature. This hankering is due to an interaction of the three modes of nature, and neither the Lord nor the devotees have attachment for such false enjoyment. Therefore the Lord and devotees are called nivṛtta-guṇa-vṛttaye. The perfect nivṛtta-guṇa-vṛttaye is the Supreme Lord, because he never becomes attracted by the modes of material nature, whereas the living beings have such a tendency. Some of them are entrapped by the illusory attraction of material nature. Because the Lord is the property of the devotees, and the devotees are the property of the Lord reciprocally, The devotees are certainly transcendental to the modes of material nature. That is a natural conclusion. Such unalloyed devotees are distinct from the mixed devotees who approach the Lord for mitigation of miseries and poverty, or because of inquisitiveness and speculation. The unalloyed devotees and the Lord are transcendentally attached to one another. For others, the Lord has nothing to reciprocate, and therefore he is called ātmā-ārāmāya, self-satisfied. Self-satisfied as he is the master of all monists who seek to merge into the existence of the Lord. Such monists merge within the personal effulgence of the Lord called the Brahma-jyoti, but the devotees enter into the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which are never to be misunderstood as material. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaḥ. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Svaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is very beautiful shloka and beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada. Actually, whole chapter, Prayers of Queen Kunti, is extraordinary. And in this and the previous shloka, we have these two terms, akiñcana-gochara and akiñcana-vittāya. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport explains the meaning. Akiñcana-gochara is the one who can be attained by those who have nothing or who are materially impoverished, and akiñcana-vittāya is the one who is the only wealth of such devotees, the Lord who is the only wealth of such devotees who are materially impoverished. Vita means wealth. So such devotees, Srila Prabhupada explains to the purport, they have nothing material to give because they possess nothing material, but they can give the Supreme Lord, since the Lord is their property. I couldn't help while reading this purport and shloka but to remember our dear Pankajangri Prabhu, who is dearly missed by thousands of devotees around the world. And I remember how so many devotees were approaching him with their plights and problems and would make him mediate with Lord Nrsimhadev for their own benefit. And the Lord Nrsimhadev, being obliged to the faithful service of Pankajami Prabhu, would sort out so many problems the devotees had. So Pankajami Prabhu was the perfect example of somebody who had nothing material to give, but had the Lord as his own possessions, and he would give the mercy to everybody he met. So the question may arise, why should we leave or renounce our material assets and hankerings for these assets in the forms of Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta and Shri, in the form of good birth, opulence, education and beauty? Can we have best of the both worlds? Can we have everything material and the spiritual at the same time? And Srila Prabhupada answers to this question in the purport. He says, material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. Means they don't go well together. Hankering and desire for these material things therefore must be renounced in order to make spiritual progress. In general, that means they're renouncing the material assets as well, not only the desire. If somebody is addicted to a drug, he cannot say just, I will renounce my desire for the drug, but I'll keep taking the drug. Usually you need to stop taking it in order to get off of it. Of course, in some special circumstances, if somebody is already very advanced, he can still keep the material asset, engage it in Krishna's service, but generally for neophyte devotee, that means to get rid of an attachment, one has to get rid of the object of attachment itself in order to overcome the attachment. So what is the motivation for renouncing? It's something that you get in return that is more valuable than the object that you plan to renounce. And Srila Prabhupada very nicely explains that we cannot renounce absolutely everything and have no possessions at all. Otherwise we would not exist. In that sense, we cannot be a true renouncing living entity, cannot be a true renouncer. So this process of renouncing one thing in order to get another thing is very common, and it's happening all the time, even in day-to-day life. For example, you renounced your morning yoga or jog in order to come and sit in this class. Somebody else has to renounce buying the latest iPhone to go for a holiday. It's always you have to renounce something in order to get something else. So different kinds of people renounce different things. So I would just like to go quickly to the different categories of people and the way how they renounce. First, we have just normal people that are generally called vikarmis, means those who do all sorts of sinful activities. So what did they do? What did they renounce? They renounce an object of immediate sense pleasure for another object of sense pleasure that they think it will give them more pleasure. So basically they are renouncing one type of material enjoyment for another type of material enjoyment or pleasure without any consideration whether it's dharmic or not dharmic, sinful or not sinful. So these people, they engage in adharma for the sake of artha and kama, for the sake of economic development and sense gratification. And this sort of renunciation is short-lived, because you're always changing things that you're renouncing. And also this sort of renunciation is degrading and addictive. Then we have a higher sort of renunciation found in a more pious people that are technically called karmis, those who accept the Vedas and who try to follow the Dharma. They renounce the enjoyment and happiness in this life in order to get enjoyment and happiness in the next life. So they renounce unregulated sinful sense enjoyment by abiding the Shastric rules, but still their goal is the enjoyment in the next life, either in this world or in Svarga, in the heaven. So they engage in Dharma for the sake of artha and kama. But because they follow the scripture, gradually they are promoted, because they don't engage whimsically in the sense gratification, but they follow the Shastra. And then above these Vedic karmis, we have transcendentalists who engage in different sort of spiritual practices. So we have jnanis, yogis, and devotees, and they all reject adharma, they all reject sinful activities, and they may or may not engage in varnashrama dharma or regulated activities in accordance with their varna in ashram besides their spiritual practice. They have different goals. A personalist, they have a goal liberation or moksha. Yogis, similarly moksha, or they want to realize the paramatma in the soul. And devotees, generally they have prema or love of God as their goal, and also types of Vaishnava liberation or Vaishnava moksha. And we have also different categories of devotees. In Madhva Sampradaya we have one specific division, and also Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan in his commentaries give this categorization of devotees. So there are devotees who are called Swanishtita. These are devotees who desire everything except of the sinful activities. So they desire and engage in dharma, artha, and kama. They want to obtain the fruits of all their dharmic activities, of their economic development. They want to attain sense gratification that is approved by Shastra. So they desire these things first, but then they also desire liberation in some future lifetime, and also eventually they desire prema, love. And this is very slow process of gradually being elevated from one plane or one planet to another planet until one achieves the Brahma Loka, and then at the end of Brahma lives going to the spiritual world together with the Lord Brahma. So it usually takes hundreds of lifetimes, and it's a common process in the Madhva Sampradaya. Everybody is expected to engage in a Varnashrama Dharma and gradually be elevated until he achieves Brahma Loka, and then together with Lord Brahma he goes back to the spiritual world. And then we have a second category of devotees called Paranishtita devotees. These devotees, they have just two goals, main goals: moksha and prema. So they desire Vaishnava liberation, one of the 5 types of Vaishnava liberation, and also they desire love of God, and they generally engage in a Varnashrama Dharma besides of the engaging in devotional service. And these devotees are on the path of pure Vaidhi Bhakti. The previous category, Swanishtita, it was impure, mixed Vaidhi Bhakti. The Paranishtita devotees, they engage on the path of pure Vaidhi Bhakti, and their destination is Vaikuntha after this lifetime, if they are successful. And the third categories of devotees that we have is called Nirapeksha. These are devotees who desire only prema, only love of God, and they renounce all other goals, and they also renounce engagement in Varnashrama Dharma. So they only engage in pure devotional service on the path of spontaneous devotion, or part of the Raga Marg. So as we know, pure bhakti is characterized as anya-bilashita shunyam jnana karma yanavritam. It's free from anya-bilasha, from unwanted desires. These desires must be renounced. The question is how quick one can renounce them. If one is engaged in adharma, in sinful activities, he cannot renounce them. But if one is engaging in dharmic activities that are approved by Shastra, although he has material desires, he wants to satisfy these desires, but because he is following the scriptural prescriptions how to fulfill them, gradually he will satisfy these desires, but in that process because he's following Dharma, he will also lose the desire itself. So it's a gradual process of getting detached by following the rules of Dharma. It's not that everybody can be immediately renounce and leave everything and just rely on pure devotional service. Some people, or most of the people, they need a gradual purification of the heart and gradual process of giving up on their material desires. Just artificially trying to become a nivṛtta devotee might not work. So we need a process that is suitable for us. Nivṛtta path is very fast track. If you want prema very intensely and you want it now, in this lifetime, not even in the next lifetime, you want it now. So if you have that strong desire, then you are able to renounce everything. But it requires very, very, very big sacrifice. It's like going through the fire, and not everybody can undergo that. But regardless of our path, vairagya or renunciation is an essential component for all transcendentalists. Just those of that renunciation has to be regulated on the individual basis, like medicine has to be prescribed individually. So Srimad Bhagavatam said, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shikshata Mega Purusha Purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dhari Kripa Mudin Yasta Maham Prapadye. So Vairagya Vidya, Lord Chaitanya, he came to teach us real knowledge, his devotional service, and detachment from whatever does not foster Krishna consciousness. So amongst other things, Lord Chaitanya came to teach renunciation. In the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear about the story of King Chitraketu, how he intensely desired to have a son, and then when Angira Muni once came to visit him, he begged him to give him a way how to have a son. So Angira Muni, he gave him a process to perform a sacrifice, but he warned him that it will be also the cause of lamentation. That child will also be cause of lamentation. So after the child died, being poisoned by the queens, Angira again came to visit, lamenting King Chitraketu, but this time he brought Narada Muni with himself. So first time when he came to visit him, he didn't bring Narada Muni. Why? Because at that time King Chitraketu, he was not in the mood of renunciation. But after the death of his son, he was awakened to the platform of renunciation. And then the instructions about the falsity of the material world and material possessions was something that he could accept. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in one of the purports in that chapter that it's only at this stage of renunciation of material possession that bhakti yoga can be instructed. As long as one is attached to material enjoyment, bhakti yoga cannot be understood, and that is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhoga Ishwarya Prasaktanam Taya Paharita Chetasam Vyasadmika Bodhi Samadho na Vidyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination of devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So as long as we are too much attached to anything material, we cannot concentrate our minds on devotional service. And then Srila Prabhupada gives his own assessment why Krishna consciousness movement spread in the West when he came there. He says the Krishna consciousness movement is progressing successfully in the Western countries at the present moment because the youth in the West have reached the stage of vairagya or renunciation. They are practically disgusted with the material pleasures from material sources, and this has resulted in a population of hippies throughout the Western countries. Now, if these young people are instructed about Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, the instructions will certainly be effective. So in this way, we understand that in order to even start process devotional service, we need some preliminary detachment or renunciation. So we need to be disgusted with material enjoyment in order to be attracted to devotional service. And as we practice devotional service, as the result of the bhakti, a real detachment, mature renunciation will come, as it's mentioned in Bhagavatam, bhakti parashanubhava viraktir anyatra chaishatrika eka kala prapadya manasya yata snatasyus tushti pushtik sudapayo nugatsam. Devotion, direct experience to the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things, these three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the same way as the pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger occur simultaneously for those who take food with each bite. Srila Prabhupada also in the purport mentions the example of Raghunath Das Goswami, who is considered the emblem of Vairagya, the emblem of renunciation. The level of renunciation of Raghunath Das Goswami is not possible on any other path. Even those impersonalists who are very detached, they cannot do what Raghunath Das Goswami was doing. We know that he was born in the family of very rich zamindars who were crore-partis, millionaires, even in those days. And interestingly, he was the first of the 6 Goswamis to meet the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At the age of 15, he heard about Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya at that time was visiting Shantipur. So without permission of his parents, he went there from Krishnapur, which was his village, to meet him, and he met him there. And Lord Chaitanya saw how eager Raghunath Das was, although such a young boy, to renounce everything, but he told him, please, just be patient, return home now and control yourself. Keep your love hidden within your heart. And when the time comes, Krishna will make arrangement, you'll be able to give up everything. So Raghunath Das, he obeyed, he returned home, and he was married to a very, very beautiful girl. It is said that she was as beautiful as Shachi, the wife of King Indra. But still, she could not attract the mind of Raghunath Das Goswami, because he was attracted by the sweetness and pastimes of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So gradually, although he was married, he wanted to go. And his parents, perceiving his renunciation, they engaged guards to keep eye on him, to catch him in case he tried to escape. So basically, he was under house arrest. But still, once he managed to go to Panihati to meet Nityananda Prabhu, and there he fed Nityananda Prabhu and his devotees with chiradai, with the rice with yogurt, and he got blessings of Lord Nityananda, who was very, very satisfied with him. And he told everything. See this young boy, he has immense wealth and abundance. He has everything required for young man's enjoyment, but he does not care for it. Why he does not care? Because Krishna's grace has come down into his heart. So he doesn't care for anything of this world. So by the blessings of Lord Nityananda, it so happened that one day Yadunanacharya, who was the Kula Guru of Raghunath Das, came to his house with the request that somebody should take care of his deity because he was going on some journey. So he took Raghunath Das Goswami with him, and the guards, seeing that Raghunath Das Goswami was going with the Guru, they let him go. They didn't suspect anything. So Raghunath Das used this opportunity to run away from a home. And knowing that they will be searching for him, first he went in the opposite direction, and then only after going substantial distance the opposite direction, he turned towards the Puri. So he traveled for 12 days, and only for 3 days he ate. Such a strong was his desire that he didn't care for eating. Every 4th day he was drinking little meat, little milk that was given to him on the way. And when he arrived to the Puri, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see him, and he gave him in charge of Swarup Damodar Goswami, who took care of him. So only for a few days he accepted the prasadam in Kashi Mishra's house, and after a few days he went in front of the Jagannath Mandir and he would beg alms. He would do madhukari, as what was common for renounced in his days. And seeing this, Lord Chaitanya was very, very happy. But his parents, they were very, very aggrieved and very worried about him. So they sent some money. And Ranganath Das, he accepted some money to the servants, and he would use this money to invite Lord Chaitanya for prasadam. He was doing this for a couple of years. But then he thought that this is not proper, that he's just using this money, not really just to feed Lord Chaitanya, but he was using it for his own prestige. So he gave up even that practice. And seeing this, Lord Chaitanya became even more pleased. So with how the years were passing, the devotion and austerities of Raghunath Das Goswami only increased. He would chant for 22 hours a day, sleep only for 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, sometimes not even that. He gave up all food and drink. He would just take few drops of buttermilk a day. And he became a very famous person, and many devotees were coming to see him. Around 2,000 devotees a day would come to meet him, and he would offer 2,000 obeisances to all of them. And then he would offer 1,000 dandavats to the Lord. So he was offering 3,000 dandavats every day, chanting minimum 1 lakh of names. So these were really extraordinary austerities performed by Raghunath Das Goswami, who is our Prayojanacharya, an emblem of renunciation. Of course, nobody expects us to imitate Raghunath Das Goswami, but still we need to renounce something that is manageable for us. If we cannot do it on our own, Krishna will help us. He is known as the Akiñcana-vittāya, the only solace for one who has lost everything material. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord mentions also in the Bhagavatam, if someone wants me but at the same time wants material prosperity, he is a fool. And Krishna is so kind that if one wants material prosperity but at the same time he wants to become a devotee, Krishna makes him fail in all spheres of life. And Srila Prabhupada said, therefore people are so very much afraid of coming to Krishna consciousness, because they think, if I become a Krishna Bhakta, all my material possessions and prosperity will be finished. And Srila Prabhupada mentions very nicely his own experience in one of the purports. He says, I have actual experience in this connection. When I was 25 years old, I met my Guru Maharaj. I got instructions to preach Krishna consciousness. So I accepted this instruction. But first, I was thinking I shall become a very rich man, and then I shall use that money for my preaching work. And I was a manager of a big chemical factory, and I started my own business. And some astrologers said that I had a very good chance to become one of the richest men in India. But still, Krishna intervened. Eventually and gradually, all my business failed. And I had no other choice but the turn to Krishna. So I was forced by Krishna to lose everything and then to carry out the order of my Guru Maharaj. And then I brought Krishna and saying, you are my only shelter. Therefore, Krishna is akiñcana-vittāya, the property of materially impoverished. And Prabhupada says, and now I'm realizing that I have not lost, but I gained so much. So to lose material opulence for Krishna's sake, it's not a loss. Rather, it's the greatest gain. When one becomes a kiñcana, having nothing to possess, Krishna becomes one's only riches. So these material desires and hankerings and attachments, they're cause of problems. And it's very difficult to renounce them, but these desires will automatically diminish when our spiritual desires increase. Then it will be very easy to renounce things that are not favorable for devotional service. Just yesterday, I spoke to one devotee friend, and he told me one interesting thing. He told me, you know, I think I conquered lust. I knew that he had some problem with that in the past. But he says, now I'm completely lust-free. I was very intrigued and asked him, can you tell me how did you do that? You will laugh. I also laugh very much. He told me, well, I had some savings. And I thought, let me invest it in the cryptocurrency trading. So he bought some Bitcoins, Litecoins, Ethereum, Dogecoins, these coins, that coins. And he said, now, because my mind is so much absorbed in this trade going up and down, when some attractive woman passes by, I don't even blink. Previously that was not the case, but now, because my mind is completely into these cryptos, I cannot even think about them, so I don't feel any lust. It's a little funny, but just to illustrate that the desire, it's energy of a living being, of a living entity, and it can be directed in only one direction. You can be obsessed with only one thing at a time. You cannot be obsessed by 2 or 3 or 5 things. You can be obsessed only with one thing. One can be obsessed only with playing tennis or playing basketball. You cannot at the same time be into both sports. You can be only in one. So similarly, if we are obsessed with attain pure love of God, with prema, all other desires will naturally just disappear. You will become naturally detached and renounce, and you don't need to put any special effort in renouncing these things. These desires will disappear because your energy, your desire is engaged into something else. You desire intensely something else, and if that something else is love of God, then all material desires will just evaporate, dissipate. So our process is how to increase our desire for Krishna, how to increase our desire for attaining pure love for Krishna, and then we'll be able very, very easily to renounce everything that is not favorable on this path of devotional service. Of course, how to get this intense desire? We have to have association of those who have it, and then we will catch it like an infectious disease. Meanwhile, we can pray to Lord Nrsimhadev to destroy our material desires within our heart, like Prahlad Maharaj prays in a 5th canto or 7th canto. He says, this was one of the first slokas that I ever learned. Om namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya namas tejas tejasya avir avir bhava. Vajranakha Vajradamshtra Karmashan Randaya Randaya Tamo Grasa Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Abhayam Atmani Bhuishta Om Kshraum. He says, O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like the thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires through fruity activity in this world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. So we are praying to Lord Nrsimhadev to manifest within our hearts and kill and destroy these demoniac desires who separate us from Him. And that will be easily achieved if we start developing desire to achieve love for Him. So we have to come to the point of realization, a real realization that nothing in this world will make us happy, and that our only recourse is taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. So I think I will stop here. If you have any comments or questions. Yes, Prabhu. Here's the mic.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you again for another wonderful class. This prayer to Lord Nrsimhadev that you just chanted, that may you destroy all the demon-like material desires that are a hindrance on my spiritual path, and may you make me fearless. Prahlad Maharaj is praying to Lord Nrsimhadev, I am not afraid of anything, but I am afraid of this material energy. Your material energy is so powerful and unconquerable. And our natural tendency is, when we feel fear of the material world, then we go to the Lord, we remember the Lord, and we take shelter of the Lord. So this seems a little, and only a pure devotee of the Lord can be completely fearless, because he's seeing the Lord everywhere, and there's nothing distinct from the Lord. He doesn't see anything not connected with the Lord. So maybe you can comment on this.
How to become fearless?
How to use the fear and take shelter in the Lord, because if you're just faking fear, if you're artificially think that we are fearless, then actually we are actually taking shelter in the lap of Maya rather.
Yeah, when we have some fears, we immediately are induced to approach the Krishna and ask for protection, and it's a natural, and that fear that is pushing us closer to Krishna, making us take shelter of Krishna, is favorable, because Krishna is the only one who can protect us. We cannot protect ourselves on our own. So if we feel fear, it's natural to approach Him. But the platform of fearlessness, it's possible only in pure Krishna consciousness. When we have realized first that we are not this body, and we have nothing to fear about, even if the body is killed or injured, still nothing will happen to us. And Prahlad Maharaj, he was fearless. Jad Bharat, when they wanted to kill him, the dacoits, he didn't feel any fear, because he knew very well that he is not that body. But before we reach that platform, it's natural to feel fear, and it's most natural for devotees to approach Krishna for protection, and it's favorable for devotional service. And also, we should be fearful of Maya. I think Srila Prabhupada once said, when they asked him, how come that you cannot fall, you never fall? Prabhupada, that's because I always pray. I'm afraid of Maya. I always pray to Krishna for protection, just to teach us that we should be fearful of material energy, which is very powerful, and we can be illusioned very easily. So that fear is healthy fear, and is favorable for devotional service. So we should be afraid of Maya. Many stalwart devotees, they fell from the path of devotional service, and we are not exemption. So we should be fearful of Maya and take every opportunity to take shelter of Krishna's feet and to take his protection without thinking that we are able to protect ourselves. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhu, in Bhagavatam, in Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, there is one sloka which says Sadrusham Chastate Svashya. It means even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the 3 modes. So how we cross over the stumbling blocks, since one already accustomed to the three modes? Is it possible at this?
Can you please, I couldn't catch very well. Can you just a little slow tell me again the question?
Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the 3 modes.
Okay, I got that.
That is the sloka.
Yeah.
So my doubt is how we cross over the stumbling blocks, since we are already accustomed with these 3 modes.
How we overcome the stumbling blocks?
Yes, 3 modes.
Because we are conditioned by the 3 modes. How we overcome our conditioning?
Yes. Is it possible in this life, Prabhu?
Everything is possible, but it depends on our capacity and desire. I mentioned these 3 categories of devotees. So those whose desire are mixed, those who have many material desires, they are encouraged to follow varnashrama dharma, to avoid sinful activities, to avoid adharma, and to follow dharma parallelly with the practice of devotional service. So in this way, their conditioning will gradually be purified. They are not able to renounce everything and become completely renounced devotees, but they can engage in a regulated practice according to their nature, according to their varna and ashram, and in this way gradually be purified and elevated, and at the same time practice devotional service. So it's a gradual process. Those who have a very strong desire, they may go direct path, only accept bhakti and devotional service, and neglect everything else, and that's the fastest path, but it's not possible for everybody. So we have to see where we are, what is our qualification. And for most of us, we have to accept that our desire might not be so strong, and that we need to take a gradual path. So that means that we need to practice dharma in accordance to our nature, parallelly with devotional service. In this way, gradually be purified from our desires and gradually become detached. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Press. It has light. The light has to go on. Oh.
Hare Krishna.
Detachment before taking to this spiritual life in America.
Can you say again, please? I couldn't catch
Hare
it.
Krishna. Thank you very much for the class, Prabhu. You mentioned that Srila Prabhupada mentioned in regards to beginning of this Krishna consciousness movement that the Americans took to it because they had some preliminary detachment, or so, and then they took Krishna consciousness, and then actual detachment comes in the form of the Bhakti Parishanubhava Virakti Ranatra dimension. So Prabhu, in line to this, like often
Yes, I understand. Yeah, with the watering of Bhakti Lata, creeper, also the weeds grow. Means the anarthas. Desire for fame, name, pratishtha, puja, lobha, and other desires are there. So one has to be very careful to uproot, to first notice these unwanted plans, unwanted desires, and to give them up. Otherwise they will swallow, they will suffocate the Bhakti Lata creeper. So sometimes, it looks like that we were more detached at the beginning, and now we became lax and developed so many unnecessary desires, and they're definitely obstacle, and they have to also be given up. If we don't know how to give them up, we have to pray to Krishna, and then he will help us, and we will lose whatever our position is or whatever. But it's better to give them up intentionally. So one has to be very, very cautious, very introspective, and to notice how these things creep in the heart while one is practicing devotional service. So these are anarthas that also may be a result of offenses. One may be committing namaparad, Vaishnavaparad, Dhammaparad, and Sevaparad, but mostly it's a Vaishnava and Namaparad. And as the result of these offenses, these unwanted desires sprout in the heart. So that's why one has to be very, very careful to avoid, especially 10 offenses to the holy name. And then if one chants purely, avoiding strictly all the offenses, the heart will be cleansed. It will become purified. But if one is committing offenses, especially these 10 offenses, unwanted things will creep in, and they will suffocate us. They will destroy our spiritual life. Yes, Mataji. Button. Maybe butter is off, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Okay, Hare Krishna. If I may share regarding fearlessness, I was thinking about nectar of devotion, of how to the degree one has faith that Krishna is your maintainer, and
Yes, Krishna is our protector and maintainer, and knowing this, we can become fearless. You just commented it, or you had. Yeah, thank you very much. This is the part of Sharanagati, accepting the Lord as one's protector and maintainer, and that helps us become fearless. Yes. Oh. Yeah, there are alvars for South India. They're perfect example of complete surrender to the Lord. Nam Alvar, Perumal, so many of them are there. I think it's a little late now to go into this, but we can speak about that later. Okay, just the last one. Yes, Prabhu. Who gets them? Okay, I'll repeat the question because Prabhu was asking. There are two types of renunciation. One who rejects everything, or the other person who engages everything in Krishna's service. Well, it's not so black and white. Obviously, we are not into dry renunciation of Palgu Vairagya. Everything that can be engaged in Krishna's service and it's related to Krishna, if we reject, it's a Palgu Vairagya, it's a false Vairagya. And Yukta Vairagya means that you accept things in relation to Krishna and engage them in Krishna's service. But what is appropriate for you will depend on your particular circumstances. You can say Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they were ministers, they were crorepati's, they were very rich. So why they didn't engage their wealth in building temples and spreading Krishna consciousness all over the kingdom? They could have done this. Raghunath Das Goswami also, he was very rich. They could use this money, but no, they renounced it. Why? The answer is that because what they have done as the renunciant is much, much more valuable than what they could have done as grihastas engaging their wealth in Krishna's service. They discovered and revealed the holy places. They wrote so many books and shastras. They were inspiration for countless of devotees up to today. So what they achieved by renouncing was much, much more than what would they achieve by engaging whatever wealth they had. But in our case, it might not be the same. In our case, it might be better to engage our wealth in Krishna's service if we are sure that we can properly engage it in Krishna's service, and if it's not obstacle. So one has to have discrimination to see from case to case what is better utilization in Krishna's service, either renouncing it or engaging it. I think we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki